Yeah, I understand. I thought I was in charge of lighting. I should be.
There's like more seats over here if you want to sit down.
Yeah, there
You
are.
can
You
also
can just come over here.
if you don't want to. Okay, I think we're gonna begin now. So, I just wanted to thank everyone for coming out, and if you volunteered with setting up or with anything in the art, like posing or whatever, I just really want to thank you. We couldn't have done it without you. So this is our creative tip project, Went Abroad, and it deals with the international student experience on Center College's campus. Vaughn came up with the idea, so you can describe it a little bit.
Yeah, so during my sophomore year, I have two very close friends, and one of them suddenly told me that I think I have to transfer because I just can't stand being here and with all the the pressure of the campus, being isolated, and the academic was just a lot for her. And the other one, my other best friend, told me that she was in a group project and they've been doing this project for like a month or two, but then her teammates still never acknowledge her presence on campus, never say hi to her or anything like that. And one time she kind of talked to them about that and just cried in front of them, but still nobody cared. And then she cried to me for like 2 or 3 hours about that. And I just feel like something should change on this campus, and something should be done about that. So at the end of my sophomore year, I talked with Dr. Frederick about it, and then we kind of came up with the idea and just the plan of how to do it. And I kind of tried to do it alone, but it's just too difficult, just so many steps involved, because I wanted to do interviews and then make art out of the interviews. So it's just too complicated. So I asked Sarah to join, and she's been a really great teammate since then. And then we asked Muzi to join as well. Muzi is now abroad, but she helped us all along during the summer research and everything. So that's kind of how we became a team.
And during our research, we interviewed about 15 international students from a variety of different countries. And we went to New York City to get inspiration for the art that we would be making. We went to 12 museums in 3 days. And some of our more influential exhibits are in our statement, if you want to read that. But they were Adrian Piper and the Egg House, which are very, very different exhibits, but they were both really useful for us. And then once we got back on campus, we started brainstorming ideas, going through our interviews and seeing what themes came up and how we could represent them. And then we came up with the pieces that you saw today.
Yeah. And during the process of us putting up all the artworks, it was truly amazing to see all internationals came and helped us putting it up, and as well as some American students. So this project is it exists because of international students, us, all of us. So it's not just just us, but it's everyone. So you can see this as like a representative of international students' views on campus, kind of.
Yeah, so we have talked a lot and shown you all our research, but we wanted to have this as an opportunity to open up a discussion on campus as to how we can bridge this gap in the future and what we can do to make things better. And I guess we can start with talking a little bit about maybe any questions you all had. I know some of you have come up to us through the reception or throughout the week with questions, but maybe any that you have that you want to talk about here, or anything that was confusing for you, or something that surprised you. Jake.
I noticed that the beanbag it's like obviously kind of the largest and most prominent exhibit, but in the video you were jumping into it and it had the American flag draped over it. I was wondering why it wasn't the case today.
That was our original design, and we planned to exhibit that one, and we ran into some trouble along the way in terms of using the American flag.
Yeah, just offend people that we were using that to kind of symbolize Americanization. So we just ended up changing it because our original idea is that the flags will be covered with spikes, and that comes off as offensive. So I think it's a story to show how different things mean have different meanings to people.
Yes, this is just a follow-up to that. And you don't have to answer it, obviously you don't, but was the pushback more from like students or more from like faculty, staff, administration? Unless you don't want to share, that's fine too. I'm just curious, but
So the controversy, it happened over the summer before we showed any of our pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And one reason that I thought it might be best to change it was if there are like 10 people walking through the building in the summer and one person was offended by it, I didn't want to open it up to the campus and allow opportunity for a lot more people to get offended.
okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. Is there like one thing that surprised you all in your research, or was something that you weren't expecting?
I have to think about it.
I think what surprised me the most is that this kind of host-guest relationship. So in our interviews, we saw this kind of mentality from international students that they are the guests of this campus, and they came here with an expectation to be treated as guests. So they expect American students to kind of like welcome them and like be very, just like very initiative about things. Like, wow, you're from this cool country, so let's talk. Something like that, because a lot of them say that that's how they would treat foreigners in their countries. If you see foreigners and like they look confused, you will come up and ask, like, you need some help or something like that. But that doesn't exist here because of I don't think it's because of this campus, but it's just like American culture. So they feel like they should be treated as guests. But American students also feel they don't belong here as well, so they're also guests. So they don't claim the host status of the on campus. So I think that complicates things a lot in terms of expectations. So I think it's one of the most interesting things I found. Yeah.
Did you research and find out that American students are welcoming to foreigners, or did you make that off the generalization that center is before everyone else is?
I didn't really get what you said.
Oh, did you research and find that American students are generally not very welcoming of foreign students, or yeah?
Oh, okay. So in most of our interviews, I think we have like 2/3 of our interviews said that they feel like excluded on campus from like in classroom and social scenes, things like that. So yeah, there's definitely that kind of they feel like they're discriminated or like excluded by Americans. But the other part of the interviews, like the 1/3, left, they feel welcoming. And one thing that I found from that is that Americanization, or like assimilation, is necessary for one to be welcome, I guess. Because in that part, the one third of the interviews that said that they feel very welcome, they enjoy being on campus, have a lot of friends. They said that they really have to do a lot of research on American culture, you know, like and try to really Americanize themselves, and then they find friends and they feel very welcome. Yeah, but if they don't do that, then they will belong to the other groups, which feels like they have to retreat back to their bubbles because they can't be themselves.
Can you talk a little bit about the challenges of taking data like interview data and then trying to turn it into visual material and kind of how that process works through?
I think one of the difficult things, especially doing it in a group of 3 as well, was getting all the different nuances across. So I think something that maybe we fall short in some of our work is that it generalizes things and maybe reinforces stereotypes sometimes. And so that might not be as present in the interviews, and it's really hard to not lose that, to keep that. But maybe one way we kept it was by keeping our audio guides, because those are the interviews themselves, those are quotes from the people we talked to. Yeah, sometimes you just can't get everything across the.
And what we did is that we listened to all the interviews, the 3 of us, and then we have like a meeting to discuss how we think about things in the interview, and like what are the themes that we found that the interviews like commonly share. And then from that, we just came up with our own art ideas that like symbolize that theme.
In the process of doing these interviews and talking to several people, did they communicate any ideas to you, or did you come up with any ideas for yourself on after this exhibit or using this exhibit to address these issues going further? Any ideas to continue addressing this situation just in general on campus?
So I think right now, John Lewin is like analyzing all of our data. So he's going to have a big project in the spring to talk more about this. So that's kind of like an act for presentation in the spring. So this definitely will continue in the future, since I think it's already happening a lot, that this topic, you know, like in the Building Bridges Day, we talked about this as well. So I think this topic is getting more attention and will be getting more attention in the future.
But we also kind of wanted to use this as an opportunity to start that conversation. So hopefully we can also talk about what solutions can come out of this exhibit.
So I'll start my question off by saying that like not everybody has the same talents. You know, some people are more mathy, science-based, and then some people are more like humanities and the arts a little bit more. So for international students who aren't so artistically inclined, what do you think that they can actually do to get their voices heard? That's something like this project that we have, but that they can do. Or do you have any suggestions?
I guess just be more vocal, you know, like presentations on campus, I think. Or like we have a club, ISA club, and then we're doing a lot of activities to kind of bridge that gap, inviting a lot of students to come to interact more with international students. I think that's a good way of getting voices heard, is that you feel personal connections with people on campus.
I was thinking similarly that this last year we've had, or instance, an interfaith dialogue convo and some other things like that. To just have a convocation where there was a panel of people who just told their stories, similar to your interviews, but where people could just hear something about the experience that is often overlooked, could be really valuable. Just get a big audience so that people can understand this. I was really struck with the classroom pieces that were in the exhibit, and how common it is, even if you're seeking to be really conscious of the diversity in the classroom, to just overlook references that may not appeal to other people in your classroom. And I was struck with doing that when I was talking about legend, and saying something like, well, everyone here knows the legend of George Washington chopping down the cherry tree, and yet 2 Chinese students in the class, I wasn't really thinking about the fact that they would not know that legend, or might not. They might know it, they might not know it. But it really is very thought-provoking in that way, and I appreciated you giving voice to those issues to educate us.
That usually comes up a lot in our interviews as well, like how people feel like they're kind of like just isolated in the classroom because they can't understand a lot of the things that the references, and yeah, so it's pretty good that people are recognizing that.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like that was it was surprising. I mean, this is from a faculty member's voice, because when we try to make those connections, it's to try to get common ground, and in doing so, we're actually making that situation worse, even though we're trying to make that connection. And I also feel like that was the book that was your piece, or
The American culture book?
yeah. Just all the references that we just are so commonplace. It's like, well, they're not for everybody. I thought that was a nice piece.
Yeah, and I mean, you'll never know what references are accessible and which ones aren't, and at the same time, the international student will never have the same body of knowledge that the average American might have. So it's kind of like you can never catch up.
And especially when we learn English, in our countries, we learn the very formal English. So like academic English, like in books and things like that. But we definitely don't know any slangs at all. So like when I first came to campus, I really didn't know how to respond to "what's up," like the sky. Yeah, so things like that takes a lot of research. So we did a lot of like Google searches and like Wikipedia things and like YouTube, like how to talk to Americans during lunch, some things like that. That came up a lot in our interviews as well. Yeah, and in the responses that said that they feel very welcoming on campus, those are the students who did the most research about American culture.
Do you think that the American students that have studied abroad, particularly for the full semester, have a better understanding of maybe some of the challenges that international students face, or is there still no difference on campus?
I've heard that, especially students who have studied abroad in non-English speaking countries, kind of come back with a better understanding of what it's like to not be around people who speak your first language and not understand cultural references. But I'm not sure that it's exactly the same kind of situation, especially because when you go abroad for a semester, you know you're going to be coming back in a few months. So even while you're there, you might not get as invested in the culture as you would here, knowing you're going to be here for at least 4 years, probably longer, maybe longer.
But a lot of the people who are interested in international students are those students who were international students in other countries. Yeah, so they're big allies.
Did you have a favorite piece in your exhibit?
I mean, I love the beanbag. It's been in my living room for the past
3 months, and I really miss it right now. And I think it's so fun to jump on it, and I hope you all did it, even though I know a lot of you didn't. I also really like the pillows. Those were really fun to make. And it really hard, like really challenging to make a bowl of pho out of cloth. So.
My favorite is probably the cabinet with the drawers, because that piece is like a combination of like a lot of international students representing a lot of different countries on campus. There's a notion around campus that all international students are Chinese, and I think that cabinet kind of shows that like how much diversity we have within the international students group, and I just like how intimate the stories are.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that you get to pull out the drawers to see, and some of them are really difficult to pull out, it kind of shows that it takes efforts for you to see people's struggles on campus, and it's something you need to try to see is concealed.
Okay, well, if there aren't any more questions, then we can start asking you all discussion questions to kind of talk about solutions, and that's part of our goal here.
So what are the things that surprised you the most on this exhibition? Things you didn't know about or you haven't heard about before? So everybody know everything. Please.
Well, I was just wanting you all to talk a little bit about reverse culture shock, because that was a concept that I never even considered before I went to this. And you explicitly mentioned one of the exhibits, or whatever. But I feel like it sort of runs through the whole thing.
Yeah, so I already mentioned this, that like in order to fit in on this campus, we have to Americanize ourselves. It's not really a choice, So if you don't do it, then you be excluded, and you have to like rely on your bubble from like your own culture, basically. So you have to Americanize yourself. It's not a choice. And then if you decide that you come back to your home, then you will have to de-Americanize yourselves, because you will feel like you're a stranger at home. This happened to me a lot as well. During the summers that I came back, my parents just had so many fights with me, because I'm all about like individualistic ideas now, and being so independent, and not the nice obedient girl anymore. So things like that, and that's just like the superficial level of it. But things like that make me think if it's fair to make it as a requirement for someone to feel accepted on campus. It's not really a choice anymore. I feel like it's necessary for you to feel like that.
Did you find in your interviews that some students found it difficult to find and connect with people from their own culture when they were struggling to connect here?
You mean like when
Like
they
people-
get back? When they come back?
I meant on campus.
Okay.
A lot of people don't have people from their own culture. So if you're from like 2 countries, you might. But other than that, a lot of times there's just one person from that culture. So that's not even really an option for them a lot of times.
Yeah, and for example, we have like 6 or 7 Vietnamese students on campus. And so if I don't like 6 of them, then what do we do now? So that's not what happened, but yeah. So if you have a big group, like the Chinese group, you have like 83 students, then you can choose among them. Oh, you like this person for their personality, but if you're a Vietnamese, you have to like this person because they're Vietnamese. Yeah,
Going back to your question about things we hadn't necessarily thought about before and tying this in as well. One thing that struck me was thinking about maybe in different parts of the United States, in larger cities, for example, you would have the opportunity maybe to go to a Vietnamese restaurant or something like that, which you don't really have in Danville, Kentucky. So I'm wondering, especially with your experiences in New York and looking at those pieces, I don't know how directly related they were to this kind of a topic, but what were the differences you saw in, or I guess what was the impact maybe that Danville itself had on the experiences of international students?
I think it has a huge impact on it. If I were in a larger city, I don't think I would miss certain aspects of home that I do miss. And cities have a different kind of mentality in them where there's just a lot more people and a lot different types of people. So it's easier to find people that have stuff in common with you, even if it's not necessarily your culture. And I think there's just a lot more space for kind of self-expression and kind of what I'm saying of students who have transferred when they weren't happy here anymore. They've gone to bigger cities and they found like it's easier to be yourself there. And I mean, one of our pieces, I think it ties that in with the urban projector versus the rural projector. There's a huge shock for a lot of international students when they first get to campus because they're used to hearing all kinds of noises all the time. To hear where it's completely silent and you can hear something from across campus, which is kind of crazy for, like, it's unheard of in the city.
Yeah, most of the international students come from really big cities. Like, for example, I come from the capital city of Vietnam. So when I came here, it's just a big shock. I mean, I did research. I knew that it's gonna be rural, but I can't imagine how it is actually. Yeah, it's like a monk. I'm just just confined in this space. I have no transportation. I can't get out. I can't get around unless I have to beg for a ride, and it's difficult. It's just inconvenient for people. So most of the time I just stay inside and just trying to be a monk. Yeah.
Was there anything positive about that shift? Like the going from really urban to rural, like did you notice? I don't know.
Yeah, I learned to appreciate nature more because when I was in the city, there's like concrete everywhere. But here I see, like once a month I can go to Lexington and I see on the bus it's just green everywhere. And I think it's pretty cool. Like the first time I came here, I was on a little shuttle from the airport, and then I look outside the window. It's just all blue and it's all green. It's just flashing by. I think that was very beautiful, and I learned to appreciate that too. And I mean that kind of experience that's like to be confined. It helps me grow as well. You know, to not be so dependent on entertaining activities of the city. You know, like going to the mall, or whatever. Now I can read books inside the room. Something like that.
So the third girl that was working with you on Lucy, says that she's studying abroad in Reading. So that's kind of like a double international. How is she handling that? Or has she said it's any different from America because they are English speaking too?
I actually went to London last semester as well. So I shared this experience as well. And this is very different because it was London and it was Reading compared to Danville. So I just felt immediately accepted because it's my lifestyle. It's like this. So I just be myself as how I usually be. So I felt less international when I was in London than I feel here. I feel more foreign here. I feel more of a foreigner. And I'm more aware that I'm Vietnamese here. But in London, I just feel like I'm just a person like anybody else. And see